Chapter 2. The importance of Eliphaz the Temanite. Each Bible figure is of great importance, but like finding a needle in a haystack, we must search out the meaning to grab the point. I liken it to drawing water from a well. There is a requirement to lower the bucket and pull the water into the bucket and draw the water to the surface. The Bible provides linear history, but also quasi-histories that eventually feed back into the linearity of its history, sort of how a maze feeds back to the middle, or how hills outside of a valley bend to the center of the valley. In many ways, Edomite history is quasi-history that flows back into the linearity of the Bible events that surround Israel, and there is a requirement to drink from the river of Edomite history to flow into the linearity of God's prophetic wave. In literature, there is the protagonist, antagonist, love interest, confidant, deuteragonist, tertiary figures, and the foil. The characters in the Bible also fall into these categories, while also encompassing critical literary types, such as the charlatan, the charismatic figure, the cautionary tale, the case study, and connector pieces. I've recognized Eliphaz as a connector piece, but also a deuteragonist in the book of Job. A deuteragonist is the person second in importance to the protagonist in a drama. One thing we must keep in mind is that the Bible characters are not literary inventions, but true historical figures. One might question how it is possible that biblical figures can be true historical figures, but the scriptural mandate is found in these verses. 2 Timothy 3:16, all scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, that the man of God may be competent, equipped for every good work. Deuteronomy 29:29, the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law. Numbers 23:19, God is not human that he should lie, not as a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? What can be surmised from these verses is that we don't follow authoritative figures as the leading truth, but the truth of the scripture is the authority of the reality of the composition, which produces authoritative expertise into being the authority. That is the Berean call from within to analyze the quality of truth-telling. The Bereans were more noble in character and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. Acts chapter 17 and 11. Dr. Randall Price of Liberty University says, it is estimated that at least 96% of this information from the ancient world is lost to us and can never be recovered. For this reason, we should not necessarily expect to find direct archaeological evidence of and correlation with the patriarchs, the Exodus, the conquest, or even the early monarchy under Kings David and Solomon. That we do find information that can help us in confirming the historicity of these people and the reliability of the recorded events is remarkable. It should be treated as such and interpreted as evidence of the larger historical context, now unrecoverable. This data permits us to see that the biblical events, which took place within a chronologically conditioned geography, reflect accurately the terminology, places, and customs unique to their time and place in history. So what Dr. Price is driving at is much of the past has been lost, and yet the Bible provides evidential linearity of history in its records that have stood the test of time, meaning there's no other book in the world that has the amount of true history in the Bible. Therefore, reading the Bible brings us into historical realities, but without a timeline, geographical awareness, and knowing how the pieces of the puzzle fit, we will be confused as how those events relate with Scripture, harmonizing the overall meaning. In fact, there is still an ongoing search for the real archaeological Job, and how he fits into the timeline of history. Does the Bible provide those clues? There is a Bible Job, but who is the historical Job? And how do we find a balance amongst the biblical account and the historical Job? With more questions requires more qualified research to provide resolute answers. I firmly hold to the view Eliphaz is the central character to understanding the book of Job. He is the key figure that unlocks the door to bring you into the meaning of the book of Job because they complement one another. Because the Bible is 75% history, I shall provide you context to the importance of Eliphaz the Temanite in the method of historical criticism, also known as sequential event studies, while also diving into his monologues with Job and their greater meanings. Last but not least, Eliphaz's piece on the biblical storyboard plays a pivotal role, uncovering the historicity of the book of Job, even though it is part of the Ketuvim writings, demonstrating the book of Job is more historical than the average layman would be led to believe. Most people look at Job as a story of the past, but do not think hard enough about when those events happened.